Go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 71st edition of the Security Podcast on the In30 Network. I'm Haim Cohen, and I just have a question for Tom. Tom, do you know your license plate number?
Yes, I do.
See, I was asked that today, and I have a mnemonic for it. I know it sounds like Dave, but Dave is not the right answer. So I had to pull out my phone, and the guy looked at me really weird, and he was like, "How come you don't know your license plate?" I go, "But I have it on my phone. It's really simple."
Mm.
And he called me a young whippersnapper, and back in my day, we knew our license plate numbers, and I wanted to tell him, back in your day, it was like 4 digits, and we live in New Jersey where there's like 10 digits and letters and everything else.
Yeah. Ohio doesn't really have too much in the way of drivers, so I do know my short 7-digit license plate number. I totally use it for my password. It's great.
I wanted to. In New Jersey, with cars, in New Jersey, one of the things that Jersey is famous for is knowing the exit. So you tell people where you live by the exit number on the Garden State Parkway or the New Jersey Turnpike. So I really wanted to pay $50 and have my license plate say NJT9 because I'm on exit 9 in the New Jersey Turnpike. Or if that was taken, GSP 127 on the Garden State Parkway. And people really love that idea. I just haven't been able to come up with the $50 to pay the DMV to get that done.
I just give whatever random assignment they hand me and thank them and be on my way.
So why are we talking about license plates?
Well, there was a fantastic story that Ars Technica put out, and I'm not going to say that 100% of their stuff is great, but I think a lot of what Ars Technica writes and puts out, they've put some thought into. It usually delves into some deep technical stuff occasionally, and this was really interesting. They have acquired 4.6 million license plate scans from the cops. From I believe this is the Oakland Police Department. Yeah. This is the OPD. So the Oakland Police Department, if you don't know, license plate scanning happens. And if you don't know what that is, cop cars have got cameras on them all over the place. Not just dash cams, but some departments actually have specific cameras to scan and record license plate numbers. Just as they're driving, every car around gets scanned and put to a database with a GPS tag and says, this license plate was here on this date. And that's really about all the data they get from it. Some people view this as a huge invasion of privacy. Why are you collecting all my data? Why are you tracking where I go? Why are you watching me on the road? Other people say it's no different than a cop just driving down the road anyway and writing down license plate numbers or looking for license plate numbers. And there are very valid reasons to do this. There are very valid reasons for law enforcement to scan license plates. But we're going to talk about some of the good, some of the bad, the concerns, the defense, and this is an interesting topic because I don't know how I feel on the subject. I don't feel strongly one way or another, and there are great arguments on both sides of the fence. So with that, we can talk about license plates.
Well, let's start off with how did Ars get this data?
Now this is one of the concerns. If you've ever heard of the Freedom of Information Act, basically it says if you request public records of some kind, you can go on and request public records, and they should be provided to you. It's public records are public. You've been able to get them for a long time, but you can go and say, hey, I want to know, how many traffic tickets that the city of Oakland, how many parking tickets the city of Oakland has given out, and how much revenue the police department has made from them. And you'd probably get that information. You can look at boring stuff like, how much money do we put towards taking care of bears in a national park? Like dull stuff. You can also...
Well, the idea also, just to interrupt, the idea is if you're paying tax dollars to do something to a public entity, you want it's the right as a taxpayer to know what they're spending that money on. And one of the interesting thing is you can find my salary because I am a public employee, and you can find out all the public salaries and all their compensations and everything else. So you could go to those board meetings and say, how dare you make all this money, and where is this money going, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. I used to work in a university, and that was a huge point of contention among various staff and faculty members. So it does have controversial points to it. If you would like to see how much exactly your governor or senator makes, as a salary, as a bottom line salary, yes, you can request that information. It is public record. You can also, it turns out, that now not everything's public record. Let's just make that clear. If there is an ongoing investigation, if there's something dealing with national security, you can't just grab those records, right? Snowden had to, take this data and leak it out in a very careful and en masse and, probably highly illegal, or at the very least, it's guaranteed to be highly dangerous method, right? The American people couldn't say, hey, NSA, are you totally spying on us? And what are all those secret programs you've got back there? And are there UFOs? You can't do that stuff. Someone's going to say, yeah, sorry, national security, ongoing investigation, you're not allowed to have the data. And, depending on the case, that makes sense, or it's complete nonsense. It depends on what you're asking. But for this case, Ars made, or I think it was them or someone else. Oh, no. It looks like Ars themselves made a public records request, and they obtained the entire license plate reader database from the Oakland Police Department. Again, 4.6 million reads, 1.1 million unique plates between December 23rd, 2010 and May 31st, 2014. And again, we're going to tell you all about it, but I highly suggest you read this article. We'll have it in the show notes. If you just, go to your search engine, type in Ars Technica license plate scan, I'm sure it'll pop up. But it's fantastic. It's 3 pages long. Great writing.
And the good part, if you've never done, in New Jersey they're called Open Public Records Act. Maybe they're the same thing, but you basically need to know your MySQL database commands to get it. So they basically star.star, where star is the license plate database. But you can go as specific as you want, which I mean, you hear things that we want emails sent from the mayor to council on March 24th between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. And unless it's personnel matters, it's private matters not really relating to government business, they have to give it to you. They can charge you up to like 75 cents a page or some nonsense like that. Administrative fee. But yes, I mean, you can get a lot of information that is really scary. If you're appealing your property taxes, you can request information on your neighbors and all this other stuff, because they're collecting taxes, they're paying taxes, so all that becomes public record. And that's what ours did. They got it. And the scary part is not the data. It's the fact that they visualize the data. They actually did some real data analysis and put it on maps and everything else. Yep. And that's where it becomes, because who cares about hundreds and hundreds of pages of license plates and location metadata? But when you put that on a map and you see it visualized, that's where it becomes really scary. Yeah.
So Ars ended up pulling a couple people off the street and saying, hey, with your consent, can I look up your license plate number? Can I check out your data that we have? We have it already, right? They don't need to ask consent, but we're going to be nice about it. Can we look up your data? And then they looked and they said, okay, well, you were seen here in your car, on a map. You were seen here, 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 and here, a bunch of different points. And it looks like the majority of the time your car was here within this one block. I would say that you live here and you work here and you take this route to get there most of the time. And in just about every case, they were entirely correct. This data with enough data points, you can actually take an individual off the street and map out the way their life works. And put together a picture of what they do and how they go about their day on a day-to-day basis if they leave the house. So it's some people are crying, privacy foul. Other people say you're using public roads. It's a public utility. You don't have to leave the house. You don't have to drive your car. And there's really no difference between an officer writing license plates down that he sees and then manually entering them into a computer system later. There's no difference between that and automatically scanning it and doing it. Yes and no, really. It's a complicated topic. One of the main reasons they want to keep this database, so they want to acquire license plates, is if there's a stolen car, if there's a crime, if somebody's got a warrant out for their arrest, if someone hasn't paid their parking fines. What'll happen is the computer will make a noise and it'll say, hey, this license plate was just flagged near you. They're wanted for arrest or you name it. There's an ongoing investigation involving that person. And that's great. Let's say your car was stolen and a cop finds it driving along the highway. That's fantastic. You might get your car back, hopefully in one piece. On the other hand, the system isn't perfect, right?
Well, how isn't it perfect?
Well, just like all things camera and OCR, optical character recognition, when a computer is trying to make sense of, pictures and turning that into text, it's way harder for a computer to read stuff than a human, right? We've been doing this for a while. We know how to read.
So here's a joke of the hour or the half hour. So we're going to have now reCAPTCHAs with license plate numbers that we can that will figure it out.
That actually isn't a terrible idea if people wouldn't be so opposed to it. So yeah, there's a license plate number, and there's a couple examples that ARS puts up. And these slides from the Oakland Police Department pointed out, they don't act like the system's perfect, right? They have a slide dedicated, this is probably part of training material, that says, ALPR is not perfect. And I think that's automated license plate reader, right? It's not perfect with 3 exclamation points. These guys know this isn't a perfect system. And they show a picture of a license plate and what the computer thinks, and it's a little bit off. Not perfect at all. Pretty good. But it has led to a couple situations which are really bad, such as someone getting pulled over and the cop getting out of his car with the gun drawn, on the person that they've pulled over because of a misread license plate, right? What should happen is it bleeps, the cop does a visual inspection of the license plate and makes sure it matches. Again, it's not perfect, and mistakes will happen. They just will. It was probably an overreaction by the police officer, but either way, mistakes will happen. People will be, made late for work. They might get pulled over for no reason whatsoever. So many things can happen.
Well, this goes back to a story that I don't know, 6 years ago, where the guy's license plate was no tag, NOTAG. And when there was not a crime, but there was a traffic ticket or a traffic violation, and they couldn't get the license plate, they would describe the car, and for the license plate they would say no tag. So he kept on getting summonses over and over again. And I don't know what he eventually changed it, but they figured out that was the reason. But look, I don't see this as pre-crime like in Minority Report, where they have this is going to happen. This is more of here's what we have, and I think the thing is, how deep do we want to analyze this data? I don't think the data itself is bad. I mean, Bitcoin take Bitcoin for example. You have the blockchain. If you want to reverse engineer that and figure out where it's going, you can. But that's really hard to do. Putting this on the map is not I mean, that's not a simple thing to do. You need to have some brain power, and then to interpret that and everything else. It's they're saying, here we have this. We see this car. We can if there's any way to help me get back my stolen car or prevent crime, not track people, but prevent crime. I don't know. That sounds like a great idea.
It does, and there are a lot of great uses to it. The concern is you can start to track people. There aren't real, hard laws in place to protect this data or to control access to the data. So the Oakland Police Department has regulations, right? They've got internal business rules that say, hey, do not use this for personal gain. Do not use this to track your buddies or your spouse or other stuff like that because you will be punished. It's not a law, right? It's a policy. And we know that policies can fall by the wayside. They can be forgotten. They can be brushed under the rug. They don't have to be reported. It's pretty weak to have a policy. It's a pretty strong indication to have a law. But any officer can access this data, right? Anyone can just log in and get to it. And it's not just Oakland that has this. These systems are not rare. They're fairly common, they're fairly cheap, and I would hazard to guess that they're fairly ubiquitous amongst at least most metropolitan areas. The main one of the main concerns is that whether or not the car is flagged, whether or not there's a warrant or the car's been reported stolen, whether or not there's an indicator on the license plate number itself, on the record, the data is still grabbed. Now, law enforcement says, well, okay, what if you report your car stolen, in 2 hours? Right, 2 hours from now. Do you want us to have the data from, 2 hours ago? Or what if there's a crime and a guy shot somebody and he ran away, but we have his license plate number, and now because of the data we know where he lives, we know where he frequents, and we know that every Tuesday night he goes to this wing place and we're going to bust him there, right? There's great benefits to having big data like this. There's fantastic law enforcement benefits. There's also a huge potential for abuse. Right, we've got huge potentials for 1984 type of stuff where you can track everyone doing everything all the time, and Big Brother knows everywhere you go in your vehicle.
I mean, take insurance companies. I mean, this is always the paranoia going with all this big data. The insurance company. My parents paid $500. New Jersey has one of the highest car insurance rates in the country. My parents' insurance rates went up $300-400 just because they moved from one affluent community to a more densely populated affluent community. I mean, and the sad part is just the density really jacked up their insurance rates and their health insurance. I don't think it's that hard for the insurance company, one of their auditors, to grab this data. What's your car insurance? What's your license plate number? And then figure out if you're telling the truth on how far you go to work every day. Or if you're saying, well, I'm retired, but even though you're retired, you're driving 100 miles there and back to do something. You're still driving driving 200 miles a day, and then that's a way to bust people. But then again, you know what? It's not all that bad in that sense that you're getting caught. It is fraud to lie about the insurance information.
Right. I mean, you could have your insurance rates jacked up. You could have a completely civil concern is where no one has to do anything wrong except for the people who are doing the wrong thing. I mean, you're not committing insurance fraud, but let's say you have a stalker. Let's say you've tried to, get away from someone and they know your license plate number, right? Easy to change your phone number. It's a little bit more annoying to change your tags on your car, right? Locks, maybe moving. It's yet another thing you have to change about your life because now this data is open to anyone with an information request. And do I think the data should be locked down? I don't know. I really don't know. Is
Well,
it a privacy concern? Yeah, but could I take a Raspberry Pi and set it up on the street with a nice camera module and take pictures of everyone? Could I run around with my dash cam and analyze all the footage and track people that way, and then build a giant database where everyone collaborates and dumps in their data? Yes, I could have the open license plate reader database if I wanted to. So could Google or Amazon or Yahoo or any open source community that wanted it. We're still on public roads, right? It's not illegal for us to grab this stuff. I don't know if it's morally correct to give everyone access to it.
Well, what about this one? Let's take this one step further. Easy Passes in New Jersey. I don't know what's out in Ohio, but the toll readers.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was saying, "Oh, if you get Easy Pass, you're giving the government your speed data because they know from toll plaza to toll plaza the distance, and if you're going too fast, you're going to get a ticket." That was the Snopes articles that was going around years and years and years ago, and maybe they do it, maybe they don't. Who knows? If you're going 100 miles an hour down the freeway, I mean, you kind of deserve a ticket at that point. But
you do. The one thing that the American court system has going for it currently, and this is being challenged in a couple places, including Ohio, actually. I needed to look up how that court case went. Is automated tickets. There's an argument that you can't give someone automated tickets based on computer systems or even based off red light cameras or speed cameras, because you have the right to face your accuser in court, yes. Which means every time you challenge a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, the cop should, it's their job to, the cop should show up to the court date, right? Yes. And you can say, that guy accused me, and I think he's wrong, and you have the chance to fight it. And with a speed camera, you can't exactly face your accuser, right? You can't face a software stack. I don't think they could unbolt the camera and take it into the courtroom and have you, face your accuser that way. But in Ohio, at least, and it's been going through legal battles recently. I'm not sure if it's ended yet. It was actually in a city was red light cameras were struck down. Were basically turned off, and they said, hey, we can't use these anymore because they're illegal, because people can't face their accusers in court, which personally I agree with. I understand, and if we want to use that system, we have to change some fundamental laws and fundamental ways the legal system in the U.S. works. That would have overreaching consequences, most likely. I'm okay where it is right now.
New Jersey just got rid of their red light cameras, but it wasn't for that. But they proved it. But again, these license plate when I saw the article, I said, I first said, was this a hack? Then I read it and I said, no. And then I remembered, if you go through the Easy Pass toll booth too quickly or it doesn't read, you get a picture of your license plate. Same with the red light cameras. You get a picture. Mm-hmm. So I said, they must have that data somewhere. And and you did something wrong, and they caught you for it, and everything else. So you know what? This is something that makes, in my mind, says, you know what? You're. I don't want to call yourself a criminal because you're not a criminal, but you committed this petty act, and you got caught for it, and you're in the system because they need to prove who you are.
Right.
And you know what? Why don't they use that for what's it called? The silver alerts, not the silver alerts.
The Amber Alerts.
The Amber Alerts and the Silver Alerts for the old people. If they're going through a toll booth, you know what? Turn on those and see if you can catch every single one and go from there. Maybe you can save someone's life and it's being used for good. But again, I keep on going back to this is more of who wants to analyze the data, more so that this is wrong.
And that's the portion, the being able to do something great with the data is the portion of it that makes me say, we can't lock this down. We can't say, oh, sorry, these license plates are due to potentially pending investigations and not let people have the data, because there are some great things we can do with it. Imagine if we got enough data and there were enough cops on the road to make, a really sizable map of an area during most traffic conditions throughout a year, right? Over most times of the day, to say, hey, look, at this time of the day, these roads are locked up for this reason, in these places for this reason at this time. We could, modify traffic light timings and traffic light sensors to try to ease traffic up in a city. Now, a lot of metropolitan areas already do analysis on the roads in this fashion, but more data can help alleviate traffic further, right? With a little bit of fine-tuning, you can actually make a really bad road turn into a fantastic road as far as traffic's concerned. So there are great things that can be done with the data. The data is not good, the data is not bad. The data is a tool, and how we use it, it's humans, right? It's just a tool, and it all depends on how we use it.
What happens if they obscure? What happens if they hash the license plate data?
Now that's interesting, and that's not something that I don't think that was brought up on on the Maps data or on the Hacker News comment thread.
Because I don't know if you have to reveal the hash. What you're trying to find is how the taxpayer money was used. And if you're trying to track somebody, I think, okay, you have the hash, you're tracking the hash. So if at that point you find information that you need to know, I think then you can subpoena the government or the local municipality, say, we have evidence to say that this person is committing a crime. We need to reverse. Well, you can't reverse engineer the hash, but...
Well, they could have a key value field, right? Yeah. They could replace the license plates. Well, you see, even then, you're still locking it down to a singular entity, whether you hash it or you give the full plate. I mean, giving the full plate, you can really track someone down from real life to a data set.
But take someone like Google. Take someone like Google. Take someone like Waze. Take someone who's just trying to figure out traffic patterns. They don't necessarily need to do it. Yeah, if you're gonna
MD5 one more step.
Yeah, if you're gonna MD5 hash it, then yeah, you're gonna be able to crack it or whatever it is. But you know what? But
if they made it, if they anonymized the data a little further, right? In which location data, it's really hard to anonymize it perfectly. But if they did, a key value store, and one license plate became value 1, value 2, and they just went through and they just enumerated all of the plates, that would make it better, I think. Another thing that would probably make it better, and this was brought up in one of the comment threads, was, hey, what if you keep this for a year or 2 years, and then you throw away the past data? Because remember, this data goes back to December of 2010. This is a huge amount of data, and the only reason it doesn't go back further is because they ran out of space on their computer. They had to delete some of the old data for space reasons. If they had giant storage arrays, they could keep this indefinitely, but they had to delete it for that. So I think having an expiry on the data is probably a good idea. Again, there are potentials for abuse. There are potentials for law enforcement to do really great, amazing things thanks to having this data. It's a subject of debate, and what we're going to see is more of this big data being used in the government, more of it being exposed through public information. I mean, just go to data.gov. There are tons of public government databases out there that you can do great statistical analysis on, or just look up cool facts or random dumb information that isn't readily available on Wikipedia. In the Hacker News thread, and I wish. Let me see if I can find. Okay, CN Smith. I really wanted to give this guy credit. He said, "Look, big data. We need the legal system to recognize that big data is something completely different. It's something we've never seen before, right? We can now track and process and analyze giant data sets that may or may not destroy someone's privacy, that may or may not fall within the realm of we might need a warrant for this, we could get a subpoena for this, or it's just public data and we can use it for whatever we want, right? We need the legal system to start making that distinction for big data sets like this, because it's something we've never dealt with before. It's something the legal system has no idea how to deal with it because it's so new and different. It's something completely different. And the court system, for as much hassle as we give it, especially on this show, the court system has recently done a fantastic job catching up to modern events and modern technologies. I mean, especially the Supreme Court, where I don't agree with every decision, but they have shown that they understand technology and they understand how it works for the most part.
Well, we need to end it now, so we're out of time.
What do you think about it in the last 30 seconds?
Well, not even that, but yeah, post a comment, tweet us. We always like to get the responses. We read them on the air and we talk about it. But you're right. The courts are starting to question what's going on, and I'm happy about that. And we do need to question, but we are out of time. So Until next time, we will see you then. Bye.
See you guys.